What's up, everybody? And welcome to The Flex. It's your boy Craig here for another week, fantasy football. Like I said last week, this is the very last month with no football. So it's time to make sure that you're getting your league in order, that you have everybody who's going to play, locked down. You should be like setting your draft date. And like I always tell you, the end of August is the best time to draft. You want to have as many of those preseason games out of the way, if not all of them, before you draft. You don't want to end up drafting an injured player. Drafting a guy who gets injured during preseason. You can't help it if it happens in week 1, but you can try to avoid it happening during preseason. So make sure you get your house in order because draft time is approaching. I can't tell you how excited I am. I love football. I love fantasy football, and drafting is the best part of fantasy football besides winning. So buckle in and get ready. So today, it's getting so close. There's not a lot of fantasy news going on, but what I'd like to do is maybe give you the top 10 by position that I have, that in my opinion, in the order in which I think that they fall. This might fall different in your mock drafts and whatnot, but this is what I think performance-wise throughout the season, and I'm going to try to give you some reasons why I think these things. So we're going to jump right into the running backs. Top 10 running backs in order in which you should be drafting them. Not necessarily in order which position and where they should be drafted, but the top 10 in order of which you should be drafting them. So for me, number 1 overall is Ezekiel Elliott. And you might be saying, oh, why not Saquon Barkley? And I'm going to explain why. Ezekiel Elliott has a better offense. I will say it over and over again. The run game opens up the pass game. The pass game opens up the run game. You cannot have 100% success with one without having success with the other. You're going to get the maximum potential when both are working out. And Dallas has a very strong wide receiver core. Amari Cooper, Randall Cobb, and they have Mike Gallup. You know what I'm saying? They also brought back Jason Witten, and they have Gathers. So they have an arsenal to threaten the pass game with, which opens up the run game. They have the best offensive line in the NFL. Those two things spell high-level success for Ezekiel Elliott. Saquon Barkley's coming into his second year. They've got tape on him. They got film on him, so they know what he's capable of now. Ezekiel Elliott, they knew what he was capable of. They've been known it. And now he's just going to come and repeat business. So number 1 overall, in my opinion, this year is going to be Ezekiel Elliott. Following up with the number 2, and once again, I'm going to shock you, is I'm going to go with Alvin Kamara. So here's the thing. You're going to say, oh, still no Saquon Barkley? Yes, because 1, you have arguably one of the 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL throwing the ball. You have a fairly good wide receiver core. You have one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. You have one of the best tight ends in the NFL, plus a plethora of wide receivers getting thrown the ball from one of the greatest who have ever done it. Alvin Kamara last year started the season in the first 4 weeks as the number 1 running back in the NFL, fantasy football-wise. He was better than Todd Gurley, and then he got stunted by Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram's gone. They've brought in Latavius Murray. Yes, he might snake some TDs, but Alvin Kamara's touches are going to grow. He's proven that he's durable. He can catch the ball. He is extremely elusive when he runs. Alvin Kamara is the truth. And in some ways, I might even say he's the best running back in the NFL. He was just being held back by the fact that they were doing running back by committee with Mark Ingram. So, to be honest with you, if I got number 1 overall, I might draft Alvin Kamara over Ezekiel Elliott. I like Alvin Kamara's run style, and I think he's a way better pass catcher than almost any running back on anybody's roster. The only running back I think is better at catching the ball is David Johnson. David Johnson is probably the best receiving running back in the NFL. So now when we hit the number 3 spot, yes, Saquon Barkley is there. But I am weary of Saquon Barkley. You have a diminished wide receiver core. Your number one wide receiver is now Sterling Shepard, then Golden Tate. You know, that doesn't spell success to me. There's still competition going on for the QB position. You don't know if it's going to be the rookie Daniel Jones or the washed-up Eli Manning. And either way, it spells trouble. You don't know what's going to happen. So that means they're going to run the ball more. And that's like, oh, well, then that's exciting. And that means Barkley's going to be better. Yes, but it also puts him in danger of being overutilized and getting hurt early, or even getting hurt towards the end of the season. You have to remember, when you're picking your guy, it's not about what they're going to do in the beginning of the season, in the middle of the season. It's about the combination of starting strong, staying consistent, and then finishing. If Saquon Barkley gets you the most points for the running back position, and then in week 14 and with week 15 and 16 he's injured and he's out, how does that help you in the playoffs? How does that get you a championship if he doesn't make it through the end of the season? I'm not saying he's not going to make it. I'm just saying that I feel like his risk is extremely high for his ADP. If he was a 5th pick running back, he's great. But for a number 1 or number 2 overall pick, a little bit risky for a guy who is definitely going to be given a huge workload this year. So next on the list, a lot of people are thinking Christian McCaffrey, but not me. I'm going with Le'Veon Bell. The Jets have fixed that offensive line. Their second-year quarterback is looking really good right now. They're calling him that effing dude, saying that he's a stud right now. And he was supposed to be the most ready quarterback in the NFL as a rookie. So if he's only had a chance to improve, they've changed their coaching staff over there. They've added now, so now Le'Veon Bell comes onto a team that has been revamped and they're going to make plays around him. The most patient running back and one of the best, if not probably the best running back in the NFL. We forget how good Le'Veon Bell is. He is the top of the line. So therefore, I think that Bell over Christian McCaffrey, because I think the offense on the Jets is going to be better than the offense in Carolina, and I think Le'Veon Bell is going to exceed expectations. So next on the list, I go with Christian McCaffrey because he's going to be the workhorse, he's going to get his touches, and he's going to look amazing. I expect him to not drop in production, but there are the 4 running backs I named above him. I think that those guys definitely will exceed him, but not by much. Next on the list is where it gets a little dicey. Once you pass the halfway point, it gets a little dicey, a little scary about who you're going to pick. But Melvin Gordon, to me, is the next best guy. He has proven himself time and time again, and if that knee injury is 100% healed, look for him to be right in that top 6 position for the entire season. And if he can stay healthy, he's going to help you win. He's going to help you win a championship. Next on the list, this is where it absolutely I put these next 4 guys. I say they're right at the same position, like tied for 7th. I don't say any one of these guys is better than the other, but I'm just going to put it in the order in which I did. I'm going to go with James Conner next. He's behind a great offensive line, and I think that he has the best chance of success. As my boy Ace would say, there's film on him now, so you might see a little less production. Plus, they have Jalen Samuels, who's being his backup, who was really good last year. They drafted a rookie who's also looking really good. So we might see some committee running going on, but I think James Conner takes the lion's share. Next on this list, I was scared to put him here. He's my favorite running back. You know it. I say it all the time. David Johnson. But I think under this new coach, with this new quarterback, with the new wide receivers that they have drafted, I think that David Johnson is going to get the opportunity to play David Johnson football. And he himself says he wants 1,000-yard rushing and 1,000 yards receiving, and I hope and pray that he gets what he wants. So right now, I'm putting David Johnson as the number 8. Following up with Joe Mixon. I really like Joe Mixon. He is a solid running back. Unfortunately for the offensive line, they lost their rookie offensive tackle out for the season, but I still think Joe Mixon gets the job done. So for the number 9 running back, I think he fits the build. And then at the number 10 position, there's a few other guys, but I think Todd Gurley is worthy of saying that he's the number 10 guy. If he's healed, he has the arthritis in his knee. He seems to believe that it's not that serious, that it's the least serious ailment he's had since even in his college days. So I have to put him at that number 10. And if he's healthy, I think that he jumps up to the number 6 position, if not even higher than that. But we'll see with time how it works out. So now when we jump into the wide receiver position, for my number 1 receiver, I have to go with D Hops. He is the best wide receiver in the NFL. And even with the shakiness of that offensive line, I still think that he puts up number 1 numbers. Number 1 numbers. After that, some people might disagree with this, but I got to go Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas has proven time and time again how dynamic and how clutch he is. And once again, he has one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL throwing the ball. And he has one of the best running backs opening up the pass game. So I got to put Michael Thomas at the number 2 position. And to be honest with you, there's that possibility, I think, that Michael Thomas in fantasy could even become that number 1 wide receiver. But for right now, I got to stick with D-Hop. After that, I got Davante Adams. He's going to be the number 1 target for Aaron Rodgers. They have a new coach. They have a new offensive coordinator. Things are going to be different, and I think Davante Adams is going to take a huge advantage of that system. Right after that, we got my boy Julio Jones, who is coming out to play football because he's playing without being given his extension. He says he's not worried about the extension talks, that he's talked with the owner, and he knows his deal is coming, and he is not going to hold out. Therefore, Jones is out there to play football, so he's gonna be putting up numbers, and I think that putting him at that number 4 position is 100% accurate. After that, I got Odell Beckham. This is a little bit of a coin toss for me because he's going to an offense that has a lot of receivers and they have running backs who can catch, plus second-year quarterback who could have that sophomore slump. We're running that risk, but I believe in the Cleveland Browns. I believe Odell Beckham is in a place where he's going to be loving playing football again in a team that just is dying to win. So I think that he is going to lead that team and get his touches and make his catches. And I think that him being the number 5 spot might even be a little conservative. After that, I got to go with my boy Amari Cooper. Since going to the Dallas Cowboys, he's proved that he is the wide receiver that they've claimed he could be. And I think him and Dak Prescott, I think that matchup, that connection is going to be even stronger now that he's had a full offseason to train. And I think you're going to see amazing things coming from Amari Cooper. After that, I got to go with my boy Antonio Brown, my favorite wide receiver in the NFL. He is going to a different team, but at the end of the day, he's still Antonio Brown. And I believe that since he got to have the whole offseason with the Raiders, I think he's going to be able to put up his numbers, and there's a possibility he may exceed expectations and maybe even be higher up on this list. But with the change of team and the reputation of Oakland's pass game, I have to put him lower than I really would like to. Next on the list is my boy Adam Thielen. Some people might think this is a little bit too high. And if you do, that's because you don't recognize the skills of this boy right here. He knows how to run his routes. He knows how to get open. He's been in the league a few years now, and nobody is stopping him. He's one of the best wide receivers when it comes to receptions, and he is definitely in the top 10 when it comes to getting yards. I expect him to even have a better season this year as long as Dalvin Cook stays healthy. If they can get that run game going, expect Adam Thielen's numbers to even soar higher than they did before. With these last 2 guys, I almost struggled putting them on the list. There were other guys I kind of wanted to put ahead of them, but I'm going to roll the dice. I think that Keenan Allen can repeat, have a really good season, but I'm not really sure what's going to happen there, so I will put him at number 9, but know that I think that, the likes of T.Y. Hilton could exceed those expectations with Andrew Luck coming back to form and them getting some high-quality wide receivers to take some of the coverage away from T.Y. Hilton, but I'm going to stick with my choice and go with Keenan Allen. And then once again, I went with Mike Evans. Mike Evans is always going to be a dangerous pick. He had that one season where he was incredible, then followed it up with like an absolutely disgusting, terrible, trash of a season. And then last year, he returned to form again. This year, they're going with Jameis Winston, and that right there is what scares me. The likes of Jameis Winston, the inconsistency of him at quarterback makes me never want to draft Mike Evans, because you never know what you're going to get from James Winston. So draft him, but know that if you pick him in the second round, you might have made a huge error in judgment. All right, moving on to my tight ends. I'm going to go with number 1 overall, Travis Kelce. With Gronk being gone, baby Gronk takes that lead role. He is an excellent route runner. He's a good blocker, and he's extremely difficult to tackle. And on top of it all, he has Patrick Mahomes, the number 1 quarterback in the NFL, throwing him the ball. And depending on what happens with Tyreek Hill, he could become the number 1 receiver on that team, which would boost his numbers. Next on the list, a lot of people think it's Zach Ertz, but for me, it's George Kittle. Especially if Garoppolo's healthy, that guy is a quarterback's dream when it comes to being a safety blanket. He gets open, he's hard to tackle, and he's a threat in the red zone. So George Kittle is definitely, and at some point, I think George Kittle can become that number 1 guy. George Kittle could be the closest thing in the NFL to Rob Gronkowski. And then next on the list, of course, we have Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz has been doing it for a while now, and he shows no signs of slowing down. He's only getting better. And once again, he is definitely the safety blanket for Carson Wentz. When Carson Wentz is in trouble, he's trying to find out where Zach Ertz is. Next on the list, I think he's come up on this list for me, and that's Jared Cook. And the reason why he jumps high up on this list is just because he's going to Drew Brees. He's going to be in Saints. He's going to be a Saint, and that to me spells trouble for anybody defending Jared Cook. He already proved how good he could be in Oakland on a team where I think that the passing game is weak, and now he goes to a team where the passing game is as strong as it can be. He's going to become the new Jimmy Graham. He's showing no signs of slowing down. His age ain't nothing but a number for this guy, and I think he's going to be real strong this season. Highlight reels all day. Next on the list is Eric Ebron. Now we're getting to the point where, after you pass Jared Cook, it's like the guys you're going to get are going to be okay. But Eric Ebron is the next best. He has unsure hands. He has a lot of drops, but he has Andrew Luck throwing the ball. Top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He's going to put it on target. But with the drops, you always run a risk. But I think that Eric Ebron is the best available guy with the number 5. After that, you have Evan Ingram. I was a little bit leery. I almost wanted to put Evan Ingram on the bottom just because of the fact that most likely Eli Manning starts the season, and that doesn't spell success to me. Eli Manning is washed up. And then if Daniel Jones comes in, what do you expect? When they're switching quarterbacks, how well is he going to play? How well is the relationship between him and Evan Ingram? I just don't know. But for me, he's the next best available. Followed up by Hunter Henry, who's making a comeback, but he has a quarterback who is hungry for a viable tight end. He used to have Antonio Gates. Antonio Gates is now gone, so now you got to turn to Hunter Henry, who's coming off a season-ending injury. So if he's 100%, if you remember 2 years ago, Hunter Henry was the man at the end. The second half of the season, he was looking incredible. So if he can return to that form, I think he would even jump over Eric Ebron. So Hunter Henry is definitely a high-risk, high-reward tight end. After that, I got to go with David Njoku. He's on a high-powered offense, and I think he's going to get a lot of looks in the red zone. And I think that I don't think his numbers are going to be exceptional, but when it comes to the tight end position, he's going to be the best you can get this far down. So a lot of people would put O.J. Howard here, but I put O.J. Howard at the bottom because I gotta put Chris Herndon from the New York Jets. I got to put him over O.J. Howard. Herndon is nasty, and on an offense that's been revamped, they got all the weapons they need to succeed. I think Herndon is going to have an excellent season to the point where I think even he could go over Eric Ebron by the time the season's over. Herndon is looking like an absolute beast, and you can get him so late in the draft. You can probably get him between rounds 12 and 14 before the end of the draft. So definitely look out for that. But you might get an overzealous team manager who drafts him a little bit early, but I'm saying you can definitely get him in the later rounds. And then finally, I end it with O.J. Howard. Next on to the quarterbacks, number one overall has got to be Patrick Mahomes. You know, that the kid's on fire, and I don't expect him to slow down. I think he only gets better. He has one of the best coaches in the NFL developing an offense for him. The only problem I have is how long is Tyreek Hill going to get suspended? And if he does get suspended, how does that affect his game? With Sammy Watkins being the number one wide receiver, that troubles me. But once Tyreek comes back, he's back to being number one again, and he may not drop. You know, this is just speculation on my part. He may not drop, but if he does, but if Tyreek Hill's gone, that's his number one target. That's where he gets his big plays from. So, you know, fingers crossed he doesn't get suspended, or at least the suspension is short. Next after that is my boy Drew Brees, 40 years old and still at the top of the food chain. I mean, when you got a wide receiver like Michael Thomas and you add the tight end Jared Cook, it's kind of hard to not be at the top of the food chain, but I think it's Drew Brees that makes these guys great. He has been the best, one of the best for a long time. But I do put him at the number two. But you know, he can easily take that number one spot depending on how the season goes. After that, I have to go with Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck returned to form last year, looking great. They added Devin Funchess and they drafted Paris Campbell. That's looking like magic for Andrew Luck. Looking like he's going to be able to be hailing that ball downfield all day. I almost put Deshaun Watson ahead of him, but I think Andrew Luck is going to show that veteran quality and going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this year. With that being said, Deshaun Watson comes up right after that. The only reason why Deshaun Watson drops to the fourth position is because that offensive line is absolutely suspect, and you don't know what to expect. He was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL last year, and if that happens again this year, you know, he might even drop further down this list. So be wary of that, but they do have, if healthy, a very good wide receiver core with Will Fuller and D Hop. You know, their run game is suspect, but once again, Lamar Miller has been working on his pass game, so that could, you know, really, you know, that could help them out. But they have a lot of problems on that offensive line. I don't know how it's been addressed. If it has been addressed, we're looking at a team that can be extremely dangerous with a quarterback like Deshaun Watson. After that, I have Aaron Rodgers, you know, the guy who's supposed to be the best quarterback in the NFL. If he can stay healthy, he's got that. You know, he could be the best quarterback in the NFL. But with that prone to injury, he's a high-risk boom or bust quarterback. It's not about his talent, it's about his ability to stay on the field. So if he could stay on the field, this guy's definitely a top five. Their passing game is a little bit suspect. After Devontae Adams, their wide receivers are not impressive to me. They have, you know, their wide receivers have great games and crap games, great games and crap games. So it definitely is a risk, I think, for me to grab Aaron Rodgers. Next on the list, I got to go with my boy Baker Mayfield, just because they have so many weapons. Like, if you don't succeed as a quarterback on that team, you are trash. Like, there's almost no room for double coverage when you're playing the Cleveland Browns. You have so much talent catching the ball that it's going to be hard to double team anybody. So these guys know how to get open. And when they get open, it's up to Baker Mayfield to put it on them. And I think that, you know, he has the talent to do so. So I gotta give him that number 6 position. Right over Matt Ryan. You know, I love Matt Ryan. He's a relatively consistent quarterback, but he has one of the best wide receiver cores in the NFL. Julio Jones. He has Mohamed Sanu, Calvin Ridley. And if Devontae Freeman can return to the running back that he is supposed to be, you could be looking at an extremely dangerous offense with a quarterback who knows how to lead their team. You know, he finally did get them to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, they couldn't get the job done in the end. And then this past year, they don't make the playoffs. So they need to do something. Giving up that offensive coordinator 2 years ago, I think that was a huge mistake for them. Maybe, hopefully, they make those adjustments, and Matt Ryan can show you why he made it to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. After that, I had to go with my boy Cam Newton. You know, Cam Newton is that quarterback that when he's out there, you know he's just having the time of his life. It's like he's playing street football with his boys and just happy to be playing the game. He loves it. And when you have a guy doing that, the talent coming out of him is going to be amazing. Now, he does have the shoulder injury. How much has that healed up? If he's healed up and he's good to go, he becomes an extreme threat. They did add Chris Hogan, but they lost Devin Funchess. So the offense is looking a little suspect, but they have one of the best run games in the NFL. Plus, they have the best running, one of the best running quarterbacks in the NFL. So Cam Newton has all the opportunity to succeed. I put Phillip Rivers after that because Phillip Rivers will always be dangerous, and they have a really good run game and a very dangerous wide receiver core. And finally, I can't have this list without throwing in my boy Tom Brady, the best who's ever done it, the best who ever will do it. I don't know if anybody could ever exceed what Tom Brady's done over his years, but they have revamped this wide receiver core, and I think it might be slightly underrated. Julian Edelman, N'Keal Harry. If he's healthy, Demaryius Thomas, that spells danger. You know, if Benjamin Watson can come back, there's talks that they're going to bring back Austin Seferian-Jenkins before the season starts. So it spells a lot of danger over there, and Philip Dorsett as well. So we have a lot of weapons for Brady to get the ball out. Real quickly for defense, I got Chicago, Jacksonville, Baltimore, the Rams, Minnesota, LA Chargers, Houston, New England, Cleveland, New Orleans, and then kickers, we got Zerline, Fairbairn, Tucker, Gostowski, Lutz, Gold, Bayer, Crosby, Elliott, and Vinatieri. So those are the top 10s by position. Make sure, when you're doing your draft, that you pay attention to this. Make sure you check on bye weeks. But until then, this is The Flex. I'm your boy Craig. Check out Gym Bag Entertainment on YouTube. Check out our website. Check out our Instagram. And until then, have a good night.